Welcome to Your College Bound Kid,
a podcast for parents, college counselors, students, and anyone who wants a weekly deep dive into the world of college admissions.
My name is Lynda. I'm in the St. Louis metro area and have a daughter at University of Chicago. I'll be working with the YCBK team on communications.
I'm Lisa, and I'm a clinical psychologist and college counselor. I have a daughter in college, a daughter in high school, and a son in middle school. After 30 years in Chicago, we recently moved to North Carolina.
My name is Mark. I'm a college coach in Atlanta and the parent of two daughters. Karis, a graduate of Davidson College, and she is the founder of the Spanish tutoring company, SpanishHelpToday.com. And Joy is a graduate of the University of Georgia, and she is getting her master's degree at North Carolina State University. Good morning, Lynda. I'm here with Lynda Depker. How are you, Lynda?
Doing well, Mark. How are you today?
I am excited. It's nice outside, and good weather perks me up. Today, we're going to talk about a couple announcements. I want to continue the conversation of Biden's loan forgiveness with two things that I never mentioned last time. And I'm going to be coming back to this because we're still learning more as the plan gets rolled out. But these are two really, really exciting aspects of this plan. And one of them is that you'll hear me use the term IDR. IDR is an acronym for Income Driven Repayment Plan. So basically, what Biden is doing is he's rolling out a brand new IDR, brand new Income Driven Repayment Plan. And the more you look into the details, the more you realize that beneficiaries are going to love it. And here's one reason why. The plan is set so that the poverty line in this new IDR is 225% of the poverty line. What does that mean? It means that you take the poverty line income and you take 225% of that, and that is exempt from what you would have to make your payment on. So here's another way of putting it. It looks like that number is going to be over $30,000. So the first $30,000 of somebody's earnings will not even be factored into the new 5% for undergrad or 10% for graduate loans. And that's going to significantly reduce the monthly payment. And if you're if you're on a loan forgiveness plan and you want your payment to be as low as possible, because, once you get to that loan forgiveness timeline, it's over and you're done making payments. So you'd much rather pay $85 a month than $250 a month. And it looks like that's around the difference you're going to see for looking at the numbers. A family of four making $80,000 in the old pay-as-you-earn plan, you'd be looking at a payment in the mid 200s, now about $85. So it's pretty significant. And there's two reasons why. We talked last time about how it's going to be at 5%, not 10%. But we didn't talk about this point. It's now going to be 225% of the poverty line. Now, that's been announced for undergraduate debt. We're still waiting to see the details for grad plus loans or for federal direct loans for grad school. And that's where a lot of people roll up their major debt, professional schools, dental schools, law schools, med schools, just grad school in general. But most people think that it's going to be too complicated to have a 225% for undergrad and a different number for grad. So it looks like this 225% of the poverty line is going to be the new figure, where before it was 150% in the best IDRs. It's complicated. There's a number of different versions of income-driven plans, but the best one had 150%, and now that's going to 225. So that's quite significant. And then there's another announcement, and I'm sorry this stuff is so technical. Hopefully I'm explaining it in a way where it's understandable. This one may even be better than that. So one of the big problems with student loans in the past is, and this is especially true for people that either had significant amount of debt or people whose income was so low, is you were continuing to compound interest. So let's say you were paying $1,000 a month on a student loan. Your interest rate may be going up $400. And so it takes forever to completely abrogate that loan debt because you're seeing your interest pile on top of your loan debt. And a lot of people didn't like it. A lot of people felt like the federal government was pimping students and turning around and making interest off of them. And it's also one of the reasons why their default rates were so high. It kind of reminds me, I don't know if you experienced this at all, Lynda, but there was a period in around like 07, 08, 09, where there were massive foreclosures going over all around on properties. And a lot of people were like, you know what? I'm just walking and leaving my house because like the amount that I'm never going to get out of this morass I'm in.
I remember those days.
Good. I'm glad you know what I'm talking about. So that's how a lot of students feel with loan debt. I'm working really, really hard and I make a $300 payment and then my interest, $200 of interest gets tacked on. So I only really knock $100 off of it. And so there's even a term for this. It's called negative interest amortization. And the new Biden plan is ending negative interest amortization. So basically what's going to happen is interest on your debt, on your loan will stop accruing once you're making payments. And so all of your payments will just strictly go to principal. And that's a huge difference versus seeing some of it go to principal and some of it go to interest. And so those are two really, really big parts of the new IDR. Once again, you know what? I lost an admissions vernacular for my Thursday episodes by giving one away here, but yeah, that's a little bonus for the people that tune in on Mondays. And those are just two things that we never talked about last time that I wanted to share. All right, let's get into something a little less technical. So our regular listeners know one stat that I used to quote frequently is there's only one flagship school in the country that has early decision. Test, Lynda. Do you remember which school I used to say?
I think that's UVA.
Ah, good stuff. It was UVA. In fact, when we started the podcast, there was nobody that had it. And the interesting thing was when I interviewed Greg Roberts, the Dean of Admissions at UVA, it was right at the time that they rolled it out. Our regular listeners may know they had over-enrolled 4% the year before. It created all kinds of problems. They went to early decision, and it was hugely controversial. It was on a front-page article of the Washington Post, UVA, the first flagship school to add early decision. And now we have a second. The University of Vermont has announced as of this fall of this year, they'll have a November 1 early decision date. And so there are now two schools. And I'm going to predict right on here, by the year 2030, there are going to be a lot more public schools that are going to follow UVM and UVA. You don't see schools on the private side add early decision and walk it back and not have it anymore. I can't even remember a time I've seen that. I'll see them add an early decision 2 round. I can't remember a school that had early decision and got rid of it. I'm sure there's probably one out there I'm not thinking of, but it's that rare. And that's because as much as students and parents don't like early decision because it locks them in, remember, for those of you who are new, early decision means you have an early deadline, you get an early notification date, but it is binding, meaning you have to withdraw your other applications and commit to the school before you see where else you got in, before you see what financial aid offers you got, scholarships, you just have to commit. And it's so incredibly helpful for a college because, one, it decreases their chances of over-enrolling, but more importantly, it allows them to please multiple stakeholders. There's so many stakeholders you have to please, and it gives you a much better chance of having a balanced class if you can lock some people in. It also means that you're going to have to work less now. If you get 30, 40, 50% of your class that's locked in, now I don't have to work as hard in the regular round where people are applying to 17 or 19 schools on me. And depending on my yield, I might have to take 5 to get 1. So it lightens my workload. It helps me please multiple stakeholders. And then it also increases my brand because it means that admission rates will go down because most people apply in the regular round for less spots, driving your admission rate down, improving your brand. So it's quite popular, but it's also controversial. With public schools, the thinking has been public schools are supposed to be about public access and helping everybody. So how can you have an admission practice that is so biased toward those who have resources and they don't need to look at financial aid awards? And so how is that acting in the public good? And so, with the exception of Virginia, and I say Virginia because it's not only UVA. Before UVA had it, Virginia Tech had it, and so did William and Mary. Those two have had it for a while now. So when UVA added it, they were not the first Virginia school. And those are the three, I'll just say the three most coveted public schools in the state. There's several other fantastic public schools in Virginia, but those would be the ones that get the most application buzz. So thoughts, Lynda?
I don't think I'm going to take you up on your bet.
well, the funny thing is I said 2030 knowing like how many podcast listeners will we still have 7 years from now. So nobody will be able to prove me wrong if I'm wrong.
Yeah, it's. I know it's good for the schools. For parents and students, it can be. It's a tough decision, and I wonder if we start to see ED2 is the next thing.
I don't think you'll see ED2 with Publix because this is already such a bold step for them to do ED1.
No,
I think that people will roll over in their grave before you'll see ED2. I just don't think we'll see that. I mean, if you notice, there's not a single Ivy League school that has ED2. Even for the Ivy League, that scene is going too far. So, but what I do think is going to happen is that the stigma is going to be reduced. And if you're having these conversations, it's a lot easier to take the plunge and take the leap if you're not taking it alone. Now you can say, look at UVA, look at UVM. Oh, I'm friends with somebody in their office. Pick up the phone and call them and talk to them about how helpful it's been for them in managing their caseload and helping them in all the ways that I mentioned, whether it's securing a balanced class by locking people in, pleasing multiple stakeholders, decreasing your workload, decreasing the chance that you over-enroll or under-enroll, mostly over-enroll, and lowering your admit rate, improving your brand. And when that happens, that means people are willing to pay more because your brand is better. You can raise your prices. All kinds of good things happen from that, from a school standpoint, the business side of things. So I think what you're going to see is conversations are going to ensue with those schools. They're going to and they're going to be positive. UVA is very happy with their decision to go to ED, even as controversial as it was. Not to say you can't over-enroll with ED, but you haven't heard any talk about 4% over-enrollment like they did before that year when they went there. So I know this sounds like a commercial for ED. It's not actually, because I do think that there's some inherent biases in ED, and there's a possibility, we've talked about this before, that there might be government legislation that might come in and overrule it as an unfair practice. And I would actually support that if that were to happen, because it is an unfair practice. Although I'm not naive, I know that schools would still do an end run and they would just secure tacit verbal commitments and it would still have the same effect. So it would never be a complete panacea. But we'll keep you posted and we'll let you know if any more schools join the UVA and the UVM crowd. Right now, you need to have a V, I guess, in your name to be in that group, but expect that to change. The interesting question would be, where would it change next? I don't know that. I do think, though, that schools that attract a sizable number of out-of-state applicants, it's more appealing for them because it's much harder to manage yield when people are applying nationally to your school. And that's true. UVM and UVA both attract a national applicant pool. And UVA's yield was actually abysmal on out-of-state early action.
Really?
Before they added. Yeah. Well, one of the reasons why is because you'd have a lot of people that would apply early decision to your most selective schools, Ivies and Ivy peers, your Northwesterns, your Dukes, your Rices, your Ivies, your Tufts, your all your schools like that. And then they could also apply EA to a place like UVA, right? Or even if they were you were doing a single choice early action, and a lot of times there's language in there that says you can apply to your public flagship. So that would be one way. Okay, I'll take a I'll apply single choice early action to Princeton, and I'll apply early action to UVA. And so they were just feeling like we're being the backup. And they published their yield numbers, and I've never been so gobsmacked before. This was on their website before they went this in their early round with early action. They had a 2% yield too. Yeah.
Wow.
2. It was on their website. They published it. I give them credit for that. That's not the kind of thing schools like to publish, but they've always been good at transparency with their data. They do a really good job of really letting you know what's going on in their admission office with a lot of data. And, I commend them for that.
And now this week's interview with a special guest.
All right, that's it. I know there's a lot today, 2 big announcements. We'll now talk about the final part of our interview with Tom Becker. Hopefully you've enjoyed this deep dive that we've done into looking at Pitt. And in part 3 of 3, we'll talk about whether Pitt has more of a surge in their applications in certain majors, or is it in some, but not others? How was yield impacted by the surge of applications? How did certain institutional priorities impact admissions? Tom talks about the Honors College and how it works at Pitt. Talks about the strategic priorities for Pitt moving forward. And Tom talks about what students regard as their greatest strengths. And he talks about where Pitt can improve. And of course, I put Tom on the hot seat. Listen and enjoy. Tom, I'm curious with the surge in apps, did you find it was more prevalent in certain of your schools more so than others? Was it across the board? Because I was just thinking, you guys got a lot of attention with the vaccine research and the National Institute of Health. And a lot of people are looking at those type of professions now with the pandemic. Yeah. Did you find it more there? Was it business? Was it equal? What did you see there?
It really was across the board. There was a little bit of spike in business. But if I can recall correctly, it truly was across the board. It was, again, we wish we could have looked in that crystal ball and been able to see.
It's better than the opposite problem.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
It's all about yield, though, really, Mark, isn't it? I mean, Tom, did you find that yield? I mean, were a lot of those ghost applications, which is, from my perspective, kids applying to so many more schools, but did yield take it on the chin in a profound way?
I'll answer that question in a way that because there's some institutional sort of priorities that were also going on in the background related to this year's class. And so last year's class, we had come in 600 additional freshmen that we didn't know, right? The yield, we did not understand, right? Especially with the test optional and especially with PA students. And so this year's class, we had to purposefully come in under and then use the wait list
fill carefully
to fill in, right? And so yield was affected, but we knew it would be affected, right? Because of Pitt knows itself. We know the outcomes that we want for our students. And by bringing in 600, that strained the system, and we could not do that again. And so we sort of planned for that. And so, yield did go down a bit, but we're kind of expecting it.
Tom, talk about the Honors College. We have a lot of interest there. Talk to us, about sort of the advantages of the Honor College and a little bit about the academic profile, because I know that's become quite selective.
Yeah, Dean Foote, who is our new dean for the Honors College, Pitt Honors, has come in and just really exciting things going on. Pitt's Honors College is different than many other honors colleges. It's much more inclusive than it is exclusive. The vast majority of their resources, any student can participate in. But they do have a cohort. They do have a freshman cohort. In that cohort, they try to look at it in terms of what the freshman class would look like as well, right? And so when you bring in 50 students into the first class, undergraduate class of the School of Public Health, there's not a whole lot of spots in the Honors College for that student. But in general, though, I think you'll find that the profile of those students tends to be this thought and this idea of curiosity, right? And many honors colleges, it's about that curiosity and lifelong learning and wanting to go outside of sort of color outside the lines, if you will. And so how do they, within the essay process for review, how do they sort of focus in on that, right? How do they sort of be able to, and the essay is very broad, right? And so they can tell us anything they want, but it is two things. One, if you're selected for the cohort, you can live in specialty housing with other honor students in a living learning community, but it's not required. Two, you can take an unlimited number of honors level classes, which are very different. They go in, they're much faster. They go into much more depth and breadth. They're designed for the chemistry student to walk into the Chevron chemistry building and say, "These are my people, bring it on." Right? Or they walk into the Cathedral of Learning in their poetry class and say, as a computer science student, and say, "This heals my soul."
Yep, I'm home.
Right? Yes,
These
exactly.
are my people.
Exactly.
This is my place.
Yes. But, and so they can be very focused, but honors is going to push back on them a lot to be able to say this candy store is pretty amazing. And you have the ability to do a lot here. And it's not just one element. It's multiple elements. And so I don't know, Mark, I don't know if I answered that question except to be able to say, students, they need to have a proven track record academically. Right. They tend to have A's in their classes, but a B and even a C is not the kiss of death, right? The essay is the critical component in how they communicate their thoughts, their desires, their dreams. How are they going to change the world, right? And that's what they're looking for.
Does their intended major matter?
Well, again, they want the class to look like Pitt's class. So there are more Dietrich School of Arts and Sciences students than there are business students, right? If we looked at really standard criteria, and this also goes with related to merit-based scholarships as well. All of our merit-based scholarships and honors would go to engineers, computer science majors, and neuroscience majors. And there are talents, there are exceptional talents out there that we want to bring together to then be able to work off each other, to be in that living learning community at 2 a.m. talking about some random subject and just loving it, right? That's who those students are. They have a love and a passion for learning in lots of ways. And how can students demonstrate that within the essay?
One of our co-hosts, Vince Garcia, who works with us, he wants to know about any strategic initiatives that are in the strategic plan over the next 5 to 10 years that you might want to holler or shout out.
I think you're seeing some of that sort of play out. The School of Public Health. We've had a graduate School of Public Health for years, exceptionally renowned throughout the world. And having an undergraduate program for the first time, right? That's a strategic initiative.
Fantastic.
You will see cluster hires related to initiatives. So in computer science, right? In some other areas, some of those areas looking at representation, right? The students coming to Pitt are looking different now. And so having cluster hires for African American and Latin faculty, we're looking into those sorts of things. Exceptionally talented in every way, shape, or form, but how do those come together to then help serve our students and the students that are coming to Pitt, and then the world that those students are going out into? And so you'll continue to see the health professions be focused on. And I talked about the teaching hospital and some of the research focus, but with a new chancellor coming in, we have the strategic plan right now that I think goes through, is it 2021 to 2024, 2025? But that chancellor's you're gonna see some changes. You can go and look at the seed money. Yeah, actually, I'd encourage students that are listening to go out and Pitt strategic plan, and then go to the chancellor's seed money. Right there's a focus on cyber. There's a focus on cybersecurity. Mm-hmm. There's a focus on just all sorts of areas that are related to Pitt, but also Western PA, the world, and the nation, right? Because they're bigger concepts there too. There's one on Pitt has community centers in economically challenged areas of Pittsburgh that we have, and so some of the seed money, the dentistry school, is going to be at those centers. In serving those communities, right? And so those are some of the students and families can go in and take a look for themselves. One, what we're saying related to who our priorities are, what our priorities are, and then also where's the money going, right, towards these projects, because that'll give you a sense. Mark, did that help?
No, very helpful, very helpful.
Well, and with more and more families asking about return on investment, Mark, that's tremendously interesting to families, especially when the parents are in money. If they're in investing or in business fields, they're looking more carefully at those things nowadays.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. What would your kids say if they were here that they think we haven't talked about?
And this may be, I like to talk, right? So I hope this doesn't go too long. But Emma and Ethan, in their selection process, they graduated from a high school, Plano Senior High in Texas. Their graduating senior classes were 1,400 and 1,500 in their senior class. They were at mini. It was like a mini community college. They had 5-6 buildings that they walked around, open campus by and large. And they were looking for something different. They knew they wanted to be at a big place. They knew they wanted to sort of be in the upper Midwest. I think what they would say, and we did tours from Chicago over to Boston, looking at all sorts of schools. And I think what they would both say is that they were just really surprised at the students that were attracted to Pitt and where they came from. And so Emma, my daughter, her cohort that she worked with, one was from Richmond, Virginia, her main cohort, right? Emma's from Dallas, Richmond, Virginia, New Jersey, but just outside. Caroline could sort of look on one World Trade Center, right? And then Philly. Ethan, his roommates were from Seattle, Detroit. He's from, again, Texas, and then an itty bitty small town just outside of Pittsburgh with one stoplight in like the whole place, right? But all of them were prepared and interested in giving back. And again, coming from a high school where they all sorts of people, but this sort of just took it to another sort of level. And then the ability to get to know their faculty members, to have mentoring, again, Emma with her research, Dr. Coyle's amazing gentleman that really opened her world. And then Ethan with teaching. He wants to be an elementary education teacher, right?
Oh, wonderful.
And the exposure to a Jewish religiously based experience, and then to go to the Falk Center, which is the university lab school, and then to be able to go to a Pittsburgh inner city school. And I mean, just the exposure, the resources, pretty amazing. I think that's what they'd say, that they've been really happy with the relationships that they've made that are going to last a lifetime. And now people are spreading all over. And so, yeah.
Thank you. I hope they didn't know they were going to get integrated into the interview. Yeah. So I hope they're okay with that. I appreciate you even using their names.
Those personal stories are so powerful, especially really to the parents listening in who are envisioning their children's experiences.
Well, and it's a powerful statement. People don't send their kids a place they don't believe in. So at the end of it, you don't even really need to say a word. It makes a statement that both your kids would go there, and then coming all the way.
We had to really talk about other schools, right? Mm-hmm. This list can't, just because I'm working at Pitt, sure. It's a great place, but it has to be your place. Right. It has to be your fit. And so we really talked about that. As a parent, allowing your student that freedom to explore, give them some guidelines, right? Because you got to give them some sort of structure, but allow where they started applying in August to where they ended up on May 1, that journey of discovery, it can be really, really fun, but it also is going to scare you at times. And that's okay. That's okay. Let it play out and have it. And so again, I hope that this, how to make a decision, how to make an important decision, but a decision that you're not going to war, right? You're not serving our military in a way that I love the military.
So what does Pitt need to do to be better, to improve? Yeah. And comment a little more on merit scholarships. If someone's looking out of state, is your net price calculator good? I mean, what someone's trying to get a sense of, I don't know if I could pay 55, like what or whatever your out of state is. Tell me a little bit about scholarships, if you could comment on those two things, and then we'll quickly put you on the hot seat and let you go about your day.
Merit-based scholarships and the net price calculator. We get all sorts of questions about profiles and what we don't have automatic awards. We don't have a grid that says you have this GPA, you have these classes, you get this money. It is truly people getting into a room and walking through awards.
Well, then maybe the range might be helpful to to get a
scholarship. Scholarships will range from $2,000 to full tuition, room, and board. And wow, by and large, students need to have sort of an A average and have taken challenging classes in high school, and then those essays. We're looking for interesting and unique people that our students want to be in class with, and they want to be in class with those students. And I say that interesting and unique people, and I want families to realize that some of the things that they're doing in their daily, ordinary life, that it's just part of who they are, we think is extraordinary, right? And so just be honest and genuine within those essays, and let those cards sort of fall through. Again, when we have in scholarship dollars, probably it'll be November 1 is our deadline, right? But they'll be reviewing up until, that they'll be reviewing when an application is submitted. It'll go through committee, get admitted, and then that scholarship committee will get that information. And when we're out of scholarship dollars, we're out of scholarship dollars.
Sure.
And this year, November 1, in certain areas was late, right? And that's our priority deadline date, right? Again, could we look into the crystal ball and tell people this if we could?
But it's helpful for us as counselors to know that.
Yeah.
And what would you say is an area Pitt can improve?
Yeah. We do a lot of things really exceptionally well. I could do the flippant, we need more parking, but students
I'm going to push back on you if you do that one.
The students love they're coming to Pitt because they can use the public transportation. They don't want cars.
Sure.
But I think, we were really strained this past year as it relates to the size of the class, mm-hmm. and then the mental health of the pandemic, mm-hmm. right? And mm-hmm. Sometimes the isolation, right? The having the expectation of having all in person and having to do some online, right? Mm-hmm. And the resiliency of helping our students get through those. And I think that we put more resources into mental health and mental health activities. But I think that we're struggling with that. We're getting better. But students have to want to raise their hand early, mm-hmm. So that they can get the resources, get to those resources and work through those challenges because they are real.
Right.
And so I think that would be the, and we're elevating that, actually, within the structure of the university, within the student affairs, staff and really putting some resources in those areas.
Well, you're not alone. I'll say this briefly. My youngest daughter is getting her master's in clinical mental health counseling, and the second years, they all had jobs long before graduation, every single one of them, because the demand is there. It's not just at your institution, but elsewhere. Yeah. So, Tom, we have a tradition. Every first-year guest has to go on the hot seat. We call it the lightning round. I'm going to make it just 3 or 4 quick ones for you today because you've been most generous with your time. But you've got so much passion for education. If you couldn't do any job in education, what would you choose to do?
I love working with young people, so it would probably be coaching somewhere in soccer. Mm-hmm. I'm a big soccer fan, Liverpool, but it'd probably be coaching soccer somewhere. Yeah.
Ever the teacher.
Awesome. Yeah.
So you can't live in the United States. You have to move to a foreign country. Where are you moving?
Oh, Liverpool. So I can watch games, man.
Just Liverpool is the answer to everything here.
My wife would say no. We're going to Spain. She was a Spanish international studies major, and she would say we're going to Spain.
You moved to Dallas, though.
Yes.
Yeah.
She said we're moving to Dallas, so it's your choice. Although maybe you chose Pittsburgh, so we'll leave it at that.
It might be her turn again. And the last question we'll leave you with is just your advice to 3 groups: students, parents, college counselors.
Yeah, the list is really, really important, and don't try it with all of your being, not to get to this, I've got to go to this school, because you're going to grow as a student in your interests throughout this process. And so develop a list of schools that are really good schools, right? And then be active in the search, right? If you can go visit, if you have the resources to be able to get on those college campuses, please do, because your brain is going to work in the middle of the night, and it's going to sort things out. And you have until May 1. Most colleges and universities, you have until May 1 to decide. And so wait, enjoy the senior year. Do things early. Get those applications in early, because if you really want to enjoy the senior year, you get that done. You've applied the list. You've applied to a good number of schools, and then enjoy the senior year and let the cards fall. Right?
There you go.
And that's what I would say. And that's simplified. There's all sorts of details that are going to come in and out of that. But
great advice.
That's what I would say. Yeah.
Tom,
coming from a dad, it's definitely a dad as well as an admission counselor. So we appreciate that.
Yeah, and your heart is clearly in your work. It really emanates. It's clear you love this work, and that's always nice to see. Coming from two people who also share a passion for the work. So thank you so much for your time, Tom. We really appreciate it. Leave us with Pitt's website, and if there's any social media in particular that you think students that want to know Pitt, I'd recommend you go to our YouTube page or Instagram or a blog or whatever. Where do you want to send them?
I mean, I think, pitt.edu is the main university website, but if you're looking for admissions, right, admissions plural .pitt.edu, and that will get you to the social media. I think Instagram is excellent, and we're upgrading all of our YouTube stuff, so you can at midnight, 2 a.m, be able to go out and see information related to the Dietrich School of Arts and Sciences in their first year cohort, or the Pink Panthers program, women engineers, and what they're doing. And those would be the 2 items that I would say. So thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. I wish you all the best. Thanks, Tom.
Thank you so much, Tom. Really enjoyed it.
Have a good one.
You too.
Friends, on Thursday's episode, Vince Garcia's joining me, and we do something we kind of really haven't done before. We actually discussed 2 articles. They're both from the LA Times. They're both by Teresa Wannabe, lead educational higher ed writer for the LA Times. She's fantastic. I follow her on Twitter. And both of them have to do with how California is handling in-state and out-of-state applications. So one of the articles is called UC Admits Record Number of Californians and Far Fewer Out-of-State Students. So that article is a reflection back on this current class. And we get into the statistics and why they did what they did and all of that. But then we also talk about a second article that was written by the same writer that talks about a plan to add 33,000 more students into the UC network. And so we kind of do something weird. We talk about 2 articles in one. Our question from a listener is bonus content with Lisa, and she's giving tips to parents on how they can manage their child if their child is feeling like their worth is being challenged because they don't feel like they're going to get into a highly selective school. And what are some tips and tools that you as a parent can do if your child is struggling with that? And we'll continue with part 2 with my interview with Heath Einstein on TCU. I have to share this. I got a message from a family, mom in North Carolina after part 1 that said, I want to go to TCU. That was the mom. So if you didn't catch part 1, go back and listen. I leave you with a famous saying. I have to close an episode with some pearl of wisdom, and I'll revert back to one of my favorite ones, which is it's not where you go, but it's what you do when you get there, and it's what you do when you get out of there. See you next week, everybody. And that's our show. A big thank you to you, our listeners, for tuning in this week. If you find this podcast helpful, please follow us and you'll get every single episode. as soon as it is released. If you're interested, there are a few ways you can really support our podcast. You can click the share button and send it to your friends and acquaintances. You can help us pay our staff and our expenses by donating on our website. You can write a review for us on Apple or Spotify. I'm the producer of the podcast, but we have a fantastic team of 14. Shout out to our co-host, Dr. Lisa Ruff, Dr. David Williams, Susan Tree, Vince Garcia, and Julia Esquivel, and to our substitute co-host, Sylvia Borgo. Our sensational sound engineer is Nemanja Motvich. Our amazing music is from Victor Allen Weeks. Marketing designs are from Kimberly Blass. Lily Parikh manages our Instagram. Our image editor is Talha Khan. Joyce Ducker does our website episode updates. And our webmaster is Stelianos Dimitriou. If you want to have a coaching session with Lisa or me, just text me at 404-664-4340. If you have a question you want us to answer, or if you have a recommended resource or article you think we should discuss, just send it to questions@yourcollegeboundkid.com. By the way, check out our website, where you'll find lots of content that is not on any podcast app. Our website is yourcollegeboundkid.com. If you want to learn about other hot admissions topics, follow us on Twitter at YCBK Podcast. We think of you as our listening family, and we look forward to meeting again with you every single Thursday.